Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Nabs Effect podcast. I'm your host, Daveen Ganglani. We are recording this on a Thursday, November 14, a day following the UAP games that took place at UST, with UE and their losing streak, unfortunately for the Red Warriors community, going to 4 games. Tough for UE, but a good win for Ateneo. And of course, the NU Bulldogs ending what was a challenging season in impressive fashion by beating DLSU. So we'll unpack what happened in those 2 games, and at the same time, we'll also look at the Final Four picture right now and see what's taking place as we get closer to the prime rib section. I don't know if that even makes sense, but it made sense in my head of the UAP men's basketball tournament. To join us today in discussing UAP basketball, All Star Magazine columnist Simoun Redoblado, who wrote something this week for All Star that, shall we say, drew reactions in the Facebook community. A lot of that and more. But first, a quick word from maybe the best friend of the show right now, Finn Cotton.
I want to say congratulations on all your success.
Congrats to Finn Cotton Sneaker.
Para sa lahat ng mga kababayan natin dyan, Disenyong Pinoy.
Disenyo ng Pinoy para sa Pinoy. Dinisenyo ng Pinoy para sa Pinoy.
Dinisenyo ng Pinoy para sa Pinoy.
Disenyong Pinoy para sa mga Pinoy.
One of the best seller nila sa Fin Cotton, napaka-quality.
Napakasarap po sa paa. Halos parang natutulog lang yung mga hinlalaki ko sa paa. The best. Fin Cotton is the best policy. Nobody's perfect.
Thank you, of course, to Finn Cotton for being one of the sponsors of the Navs Effect podcast. Like I mentioned, Simoun Redoblado will be joining us to be talking UAP basketball. Thank you to the members of the community already here. I see guys like Patrick, like Miko, like Tonyo, like Akio here, ready to tune in and listen to UAP Hoops conversations. Simon, it's been a while since we've had you here on the podcast. How are you doing?
Thanks for having me once again, Navs. To everyone waiting to jump on the prime rib of the UAAP Season 87 Men's Basketball Tournament. Bon appetit, ladies and gentlemen. Papunta pa lang tayo sa exciting part.
I see you've caught on with the prime rib action. I'm proud of you. Appreciate you for doing that. Of course, a lot of basketball taking place. The PBA Governors Cup just ended as well. We are getting into the early weeks of excitement of the NBA season. And also Gilas. We're going to have the national team in action again soon. Feels like it's been a while since we've seen our Philippine national team. They'll be taking on New Zealand and then Hong Kong at home here in the Philippines, which should add for excitement and should get everybody ready to be nationalistic once again. But until then, we have some UAP stuff to discuss. Okay, Simon, let's jump right at the Final Four picture. So, number 1, number 2, guaranteed. LaSalle and University of the Philippines. Number 3 and number 4 is in question. Now, I do want to shout out the right people for making this graphic. This was shared in our what's now called the Navs Effect Community exclusive members chat on Messenger. Yes, sir. This was shared by one of the friends of our community members, Jose. Thank you so much, Jose. It wasn't him who created this. It was a friend of his. So if Jose, you get to watch this podcast while it streams, please send the link because we want to give proper credit. If not, I'll follow up with him and post it later on. What's up to Emil? Thanks for joining us. So as we can see right now, this feels like a Doctor Strange multiple possibilities kind of situation. But if we simplify it a little bit, we might find the one, shall we say, universe where Iron Man does not pass away, unfortunately. Now, I'm just joking. I'm sure many of you are still traumatized about that. I am. But listen, okay, we're going to go at it one by one, and there are many options here. But I figure there are a lot of FEU, UP, no, FEU, UST, Adamson, and of course UE diehards and fans who are curious how their team could possibly make it. Now, remaining critical games, you have FEU versus UP, you have UST versus Adamson. Both these games take place on Saturday, November 16 at Phil Oil Arena. Game 55, UE versus UP. I believe that takes place November 20 or 21. November 20, yes, also at Phil Oil Arena. And then the final game of the season, November 23, Adamson versus Ateneo, also at Phil Oil Arena. So these two game dates are kind of going to sandwich the FIBA play dates to some degree. All right. If Adamson ends with a 7-7 record, they're currently 5-7, right, Simon? I'm not mistaken with that.
Yes.
They're currently 5-7.
Yes.
If
5-7.
Adamson is 7-7, no, sorry, if UE is 7-7, if UST is 7-7, if Adamson is 6-8, and if FEU is 6-8, which would mean they need to beat UP, this would be the order. UST would be 3, UE would be 4, Adamson would be 5, and the FEU would be 6. So FEU would still be eliminated. And likewise for Adamson. If UE is 7-7, if UST is 7-7, if Adamson is 5 and 9, and if FEU is 6 and 8 at the end of the eliminations, UST will be 3, UE will be 4. If UE is 6-8, if UST is 7-7, if Adamson is 6-8, if FEU is 6-8, 3 will be UST, and we will have a step ladder for number 4 between FEU versus UE, then the winner taking on Adamson. This is a long list, guys, so bear with me here. Bear with me. If UE is 6-8, if UST is 7-7, if Adamson is 5-9, and if FEU is 6-8, UST is 3, UE is 4. If UE is 7-7, if UST is 6-8, if Adamson is 7-7, and if FEU is 6-8, Adamson would be 3, UE would be 4. And what a turn of events that would be for Adamson. Guys, this is still long. Bear with me. Bear with me. If Adamson is 7. If UE is 7-7, see, even I'm getting confused so many times. If UST is 6-8, if Adamson is 6-8, and if FEU is 6-8, then UE would be 3, and there would be a step ladder. FEU versus Adamson, the winner taking on 4. UE is 6-8, if UST is 6-8, if Adamson is 7-7, and if FEU is 6-8, Adamson would be 3, and then there would be a step ladder. FEU versus UE, then the winner takes on UST for 4. Almost halfway there, guys. If UE is 6-8, if UST is 6-8, basically if all teams are 6-8, then it's going to be, I believe, quotient will determine the third seed. And then there would be a step ladder to determine the fourth seed. But I would need to confirm this to be sure. Because who knows, maybe a step ladder will be involved for the third seed. Okay. If UE is 7-7, if UST 7-7, if Adamson is 6-8, and if FEU is... Okay, now, I'm not even going to mention FEU's record for the remaining members, for the remaining options, because in these different situations, we're assuming UP will beat FEU, which means FEU is automatically out. So, if Adamson is 7-7, if UE is 7-7, if UST is 7-7, and if Adamson is 6-8, UST 3, UE 4. If UE is 7-7, if UST 7-7, if Adamson is 5 and 9, then UST 3, UE 4 as well. If UE 6-8, UST 7-7. And then if Adamson is 6-8, that means UST is 3, a playoff between Adamson and UE for 4. And they've had some exciting matchups over the last 2 seasons. So that would be spicy. Korean level noodle spicy. If UE is 6-8, UST 7-7, Adamson is 5-9. Well, UST is 3, UE is 4. If UE 7-7, UST 6-8, Adamson is 7-7. Adamson 3, UE 4, UST eliminated. If UE is 7-7, UST 6-8, and Adamson is 6-8, UE 3, UST Adamson knockout match for 4. 2 more. If UE is 6-8, UST is 6-8, Adamson is 7-7, Adamson is 3, UST versus UE knockout matchup for 4, and so far UST has kind of dominated that matchup against UE. Last option here. We made it. We made it. If UE is 6'8", UST is 6'8", Adamson is 6'8", so all three teams are 6'8". And all three teams will end up in a tie. And again, I believe quotient will determine 3, and 4 will be a playoff bout. So, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for bearing with us. That is the end of the podcast. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. Really good job, guys. Good job, Simon. No, I'm just joking. Okay, Simon, we went through this as well as we could, I would say. Now, with the data in front of us, if we have to determine what is the most possible outcome to determine the final four, what would you guess?
Well, if I wrote a column in which I had to show some decency and I still got flack for it, what I'm about to say will draw me even more flack, so deal me in. Okay, so I see that UE's next opponents would be Ateneo and sorry, they already played Ateneo, so their last opponent would be UP, right? UST is going up against Adamson, and Adamson has to, of course, deal with both UST and Ateneo. I'm gonna go ahead and say that UE will drop that final game to UP. I mean, Fighting Maroons better. Okay. But the tricky part there, Navs, would be UST versus Adamson, because Adamson, like you mentioned, did beat UST in round one. I just think that the Growling Tigers are finally going to show up. And when I say show up, not just win, but really put all the pieces of their puzzle together and be Final Four ready. So I think UST knocks off Adamson, moving them up to 7-7. I also think, however, that Adamson will lose not just to UST but also to Ateneo, because the way that Ateneo defeated UE, despite it being a Momoe less team, okay, I think Ateneo's pretty sharp at this point. So that would leave, if my math is correct, UE and Adamson both at 6-8, UST securing the third spot, which is what we predicted all along with the 7-7 record, leaving Adamson and UE to duke it out for that fourth and final spot in the Final Four. So your guess is as good as mine, Navs. Who wins that matchup? I do think that UE will edge out Adamson just a little bit, because at the end of the day, Momoe's presence will be big time, and that would set up what I would think is a very interesting matchup between DLSU and UE in the Final Four.
Interesting. That would be an interesting matchup, because we did see how that first round went, but I think the LSU would have the upper hand. Although it would be nice to see a program like UE make it back to the Final Four for the first time after 15 years. I feel like that community would get so hyped and so pumped, and it would be nice to see that. Although I have to admit, they haven't made it easy for themselves. They've put themselves in this position where now they're kind of, yes, their destinies in their hands, but maybe to some degree they might need help from other teams as well, compared to at the end of the first round, where, remember, before the first round of UP versus LaSalle, we were talking about how, oh my God, if LaSalle loses to UP, UE being 5-2, having the tiebreaker over LaSalle at that point, and a similar record, would be number 2. And if someone told you that weeks later, UE would be in this position where they're fighting for their Final Four hopes. They're under 500. They're under 500 now, right? Or are they 6-6?
Right now they are at 6-7, so they are under.
They are
500,
under
having
500.
Having lost to Ateneo, yeah.
They went from 5-2 to under 500. It's insane to think about. You know, after that NU win a few weeks ago, everything seems so good for them, right? Like it just seemed crazy to think they might miss the Final Four. I'm not saying they will now, but the fact that they're here, it's not their fault. Some of it was bad shooting luck as well, but also it's not like they put themselves in the position to close it out. And we'll get more into that later. I just want all the crazy possible. So I want like playoff knockout match after another. We get a knockout match. But realistically, and I say this with all due respect to FEU, who I think has been sensational, not sensational, but very encouraging. I think that's a better term to describe it. In the first year of Sean Chambers, I think UP will win that game. And people might say, and I immediately think also, well, how about LaSalle? Their non-bearing game against NU outplayed them and beat them. So nothing is guaranteed. But I think UP is going to be really motivated to win this game and build up some momentum entering their own Final Four ambitions, which is why I think UP wins this game. So if UP wins this game, that takes FEU out of the running. So what happens next? The UST versus Adamson game determines so much of how this is going to go. And right now, it's 50-50 for me. I'd like to say that UST has more talent, but in terms of execution, sometimes UST can be lacking in that regard, while Adamson has proven they can make up the lack of talent sometimes by being the better prepared team, surprise defensive strategies, moving the ball better, controlling the pace. I give Adamson a legit chance to win this game. In the event that Adamson does win this game, and I'm not saying Adamson wins, it comes down to UE versus UP, and that's what's going to be crazy, right? That's what's going to be crazy because at that point, let's say UP gets the gears right. They're able to fine tune the car when it needs tuning up, and they're able to secure that win against FEU. Then you ask, okay, but the second seed has been guaranteed. They're back on track. Will they take it easy against UE? Even if they take it easy, what does that mean? Will they play more of the guys off the bench? These are guys who haven't played all season. They'll want to win the game, right? If they play the starters will go out there to win. So what happens? And I don't want to disregard UE. I think a UE team with that community showing up and a desire to make the Final Four in a game against UP like that would be very interesting to watch.
Backs
So,
against the wall.
backs against the wall, everything on the line, kitchen sink game, put it all out there because you make the Final Four this year if you're UE, that's a win to me. You haven't made the Final Four in 15 years. You make the Final Four, that's already better than any of the last 15 years. So they need to go all out for this game. And at a certain point, the shooting has to progress to the mean and balance out, right? Has to balance out. Here's what I think is going to happen, just a prediction. Prediction here. I think UP beats FEU. I think UST beats Adamson. Oh my God, man. Oh my God.
What outcome are you stewing on, Maps?
UE versus UP.
Okay.
That would be
You,
nuts.
you mentioned taking it easy, and for the love of God, I do not see any reason why UP would treat this like game 81 or game 82 of a long NBA season. It isn't. So let me make this point right now, Nams. That victory by NU over LaSalle, okay, and what's happening to UE right now, there's just one theme cutting across both of those events, and UP as well. Momentum. You mentioned in our group chat that usually the team that picks up steam, serious momentum in the second round, catches fire, heads into the Final Four with so much momentum, usually that team goes on to win the chip. So I'm not saying that LaSalle's momentum has been completely stopped, but what could have been an exclamation point of an elimination round now has a bit of a question mark because they ended the elimination round on a loss. So for anyone who wants to nitpick, it's that their 9-game winning streak came to an end, and now they're heading into the Final Four with an L on the record. It's crazy also to think that at this very moment that we're speaking, the hottest team in the league is Adamson. They've won back-to-back. Not UP, not LaSalle, and most definitely not UE. It's the Soaring Falcons who are coming off back-to-back wins over UE and NU. So who's to say that they're not going to take the next two assignments that they have? So what I'm trying to say is, if UP has championship aspirations still at this point in the season, they better make sure that they take care of business against both UE and FEU. No underestimating anyone, no resting key players because we need to keep them fresh for the final four and the finals. Nothing is guaranteed at this point. So momentum, it's such a huge thing, and I can see the finals. I mean, if you had asked me this past weekend how the finals would look like, I might have said it would be a bit of a demolition job. But right now, there are question marks and there are uncertainties, and I think we're still going to end up with a very thrilling, a very close series in the finals.
I think UP goes 2-0 in their last two games, and I think UST beats Adamson, in which case it would be 6-8 UE, 7-7 UST, 5-9 Adamson. So Adamson is one loss away from elimination, am I right?
So the other game, you
If they
haven't
lose
considered
against
now.
Ateneo, yeah,
There
if
you go.
there's the
I was
Ateneo
going to
game.
ask in the Battle of the Birds, Nabs, who do you got? The Falcons or the Eagles?
Oh, I think Adamson wins that. I think
In that case,
Adamson with more to play for would end up winning that game. In which case,
yeah, I
in
mean they
which
have
case there would
stakes.
be a playoff. UST would be 3.
Yeah.
Adamson UE would fight off for 4 and give me all the drama because those two teams have had quite the impressive matchups the last two seasons.
Now, Adamson's round two victory over UE takes on even more importance because at that time we were like, oh, that's nice. They ended
Yeah,
their
yeah.
skid. So, UE notched up another L. But now it's got to be in the heads of both these coaches, both these rosters. And yeah, it's very possible that they both end up with a 6-8 record. I think also that, again, funnily enough, Adamson has a bit more cushion compared to these other teams because if you think about it, they quote unquote really only need to win one more of their assignments to put themselves at the very least in a position to play off for that fourth and final spot. But of course, knowing Coach Nacho Sala, he's not going to say, "Oh, let's get the bare minimum." Of course, and had four win.
Simon, are you there?
Oh, sir.
Okay, I think we have Simon's internet maybe acting. Are you back there? Okay, you're there. You're there now. You're back there.
Yeah,
There you are.
I was just saying that there's a scenario. I was saying that there's a scenario in which Adamson could end the elimination round with a 4-game winning streak. Predict that.
And that makes you think also how much bigger that first round game was, right? That game where UE beat Adamson on that Lingo Lingo game winning shot. And imagine how different the Final Four picture would be if that game turned out to be differently. This is crazy, crazy. When you look back on it at the end of the elimination round, every little possession really matters of every game. It could change the outcome before you know it. All right. What is the deal with UE? Why the struggles, in your opinion? Because it feels to me like they're taking a lot of the shots they were making early in the season. Now, the last game, they didn't have Precious Mom away, and we can see here that the rebounding, they actually still won it even without Precious, 47-43. We do know Precious's presence can be quite the game-changing factor. So maybe I think that game turns out differently if Precious is in that contest. But of course, we've already discussed what happened. A lot of us don't agree it warranted an injection, but that's just the reality. It is what it is. Do you just think UE struggles, you can kind of summarize it, shots aren't falling in? Or is there something like deeper there that maybe teams have started to figure out and have led to this losing streak, which absolutely turned their season around?
Yeah, two things. Number one, on one end of the floor, at this point, you can see every team mouthing off their opponent's plays and basically imitating their hand gestures every time the point guard or the coach calls it out. So I think every team knows what the other team wants to do on offense at this point in the elimination rounds. Um, on the other hand, though, I think UE could also use a bit more creativity on offense because at the end of the day, if most of your shots come from the perimeter, then you're number one, you're really bailing out the defense, and number two, it's just easier to contain your offense as opposed to a more dynamic in and out approach, right? So, for example, in that game against Ateneo, UE took 46 attempts from the perimeter versus just 24 in the paint. Of course, a lot of that is a function of Momoway not being present in the game, but come on now, 46 perimeter attempts versus 24 interior attempts. Really, that's just not gonna cut it. And I think the other thing that we have to look at here, Navs, as well, is um, I'm kind of disappointed in what the combination of Abate, Wilson, and Lingo Lingo have given their team thus far in the second round because that backcourt hasn't been as potent in terms of offense. And really, yesterday was a prime example of this. It's Rainier Maga making those mid-range shots and those clutch baseline jumpers. If anyone's a very reliable scorer on the UE roster right now in the second round, it's Maga, and can't stop thinking of what happened in the U.S. elections every time I hear this guy's surname. But long may you live, long may you live, Maga. Talagang mabuhay ka, Maga. But yeah, I think something else I also noticed, Nabs, if you don't mind, I could not quite understand why UE stayed in the 2-3 zone in that last couple of minutes, last 3 minutes of that game against Ateneo, because the Blue Eagles kept killing them in terms of the two weaknesses of the zone. They kept getting offensive rebounds, and those offensive rebounds kept leading to wide open 3-point shots. So, gotta reconfigure that if you're the defensive coordinator of the Red Warriors.
One more thing too. It looked like UE was going to seal the game with a few minutes left. Then they had the zone possession, and they got the ball to the middle. Ateneo did with like 5 seconds left on the clock. They tried everything not to get the ball to the middle. Then literally, as the shot clock was going down, they got the ball to the middle, passed the ball. I think there was a missed 3-point shot, but then there was an offensive rebound that led to a Kuhn 3-pointer, if I'm remembering correctly, and they attacked the zone at the right time. That kept them in the game. And it felt like UE panicked after that, went away from the zone, and then it played into Ateneo's hands. And we do have to mention Sean Kitavis with the clutch free throws and the clutch hustle play at the end to secure this victory for an Ateneo team that it's been a very interesting season in terms of how they're in the bottom after years of dominance. And it's been very interesting as well to see how Coach Tab has taken everything in reflection this season. He feels a little more grounded and calm and patient as compared to the last few seasons. Surprising to me, because I wondered before the season, the competitor he is and having always that standard of excellence and winning, how he will be patient enough with his own competitive fire to be patient with this young team, knowing that they probably weren't going to win the championship, and then right away figured out we're probably not going to make the Final Four as well. But he has been very grounded, and he has been working to develop these guys step by step without skipping any steps. And you are seeing the progress in Bahay, Porter, even Tuano, who all season long I think has been their best attacker in terms of slashing to the basket. I think Kuhn and Kitevis, you've seen them maybe knowing their spots more, but it was later on in the season, the early injury, I felt to Kuhn was a big factor in Ateneo's early struggles too. But this has been a tough season for Ateneo, and I don't doubt they will be back to being championship contenders. I'm not sure it's going to be next season right away unless they pull out like a massive recruiting haul, maybe like 3 blue chippers out of nowhere, which I just don't see happening because they already got their blue chipper. His name is Jared Bahay, and he's probably going to come in second place in Rookie of the Year voting. He's going to be good for a long time, and so is Chris Porter. I don't know if Ateneo can be a championship contender right away next season. I think they can kind of be what Adamson is this year, maybe hanging around the fringes, maybe get to a playoff for the fourth seed. But most importantly, Simon, I just want to know how much stock have you bought in the Balogun Believers Club Foundation? Are you now a chairman? Are you a co-founder? Are you a treasurer? And I want my BBC people to stand up and let us know what's going on. Louder, exactly. Where the BBC people at? Simon, how
You
often are these
know,
assembly meetings?
yeah, I mean, I don't think I've worked myself past the apprentice status. But I know that there are many, many big time roles when it comes to the, I'm just going to say it, the BBC.
Hey, honest question. Who is better right now? Balogun or Ododo? Let us know,
All right.
people. Balogun or Ododo? Who's the better FSA? And you know what?
Hey,
Let's add. Oh, I think if we add Agunane, Agunane might be the best option. Agunane's been playing solid as of late. So, Balogun or Ododo?
I have to go with the Homer answer. Of course, it's Kingsley because I think Kingsley has better hands. He has better feet. He has more potential in terms of being a scorer, and I think he's an underrated uh, interior defender. And believe it or not, Navs, I believe Kingsley is clutch. Uh, Balogun is all right. Ask me your next question, Navs.
Let's rank the FSAs this season. What's your updated FSA ranking?
Okay. It's a bit tough to evaluate an import who apparently cannot control, like you and me, what happens to him, what happens to the different limbs of his body as he falls down. But
Come away. No,
I
let's do
mean,
8-1. Let's do 8-1. I think it'll
okay.
be more
I mean,
exciting. Yeah. I mean, we
all right.
all know your number 8 is.
That's a spoiler.
It's Balogun for you, but you decided to buy low, so I respect the hustle.
Look, I'd rather go 1 to 8. Actually, let's go Mama Way. Let's go Tungkara. Um, Agunane probably goes number 3, and then Kingsley goes number 4. So that
Wait,
leaves.
Konate.
Oh, hold on.
Yeah, exactly. You forgot about our guy Mo, who's probably gonna be
Um,
in the mythical 5 this season.
okay, because UP is playing FEU this weekend, I cannot put Konate
Oh
over
yeah,
Kingsley,
Conate's
so
gonna
the
remember when
bias is
all-star
there.
columnist Simoun Redoblado disrespected. Nah, I'm just joking.
Sorry, gotta go with the Bulwagan ng Dangal. All right, so Kingsley and then Konate. So that leaves Ojarikre, Balogun, and who am I missing? Oh, Tiasana. Hey,
Oh yeah, that's tough.
dude, look, by default, we have to put the Asana at the bottom of the pack because, sorry, you didn't play. So
It's like
that,
one of those not applicable options, but still in the list. Then, oh yeah.
I mean, he did play a few minutes, so I guess that makes him eligible. Sorry, Mr. Diasana. So,
Wait, you had
Konate,
Konate at 5?
yeah, I have Konate at 5 because, Kingsley.
What? No way.
All right, look, Momaway, Tongkara, Agunane.
And
Are you
then
gonna put
Ododo
Agunane?
over Konate? Wait, this is
Does anyone wonder why?
is this a UP pick or a objective pick?
It's a UV pick. I just said so.
Okay.
It's a
I
homework
get you.
Show love to my man Kingsley. I saw in a tweet sent by assistant coach Ryan Alba long ago. Apparently, Kingsley is a huge fan of bread talk. Like in practice, this is what Coach Ryan said. So he sees Kingsley with a pack of bread talk, and then a few minutes that pack is empty. So you keep getting those carbs, my man. You're gonna need all of that going up against the talented front courts that you're gonna go up against in this postseason.
Okay, my number one FSA is Michael Phillips, just dominant. Oh wait, he's on FSA. Sorry, my bad. I thought he was
Nope.
an FSA. He plays like one, that's for sure. What
Yep.
kind of a cheat code is that, right? Finding a local that makes you realize that you don't need an FS8. I mean, they have an FSA, but like, if someone told you tomorrow Henry Agunan is injured for the season, how concerned would you be? 1 to 5.
Agonane? Are you asking me from the perspective? Just kidding. Okay. If I were a LaSalle supporter, Agonane is injured and out for the rest of the season, I'd be probably worth like 2 or 2.5. But that's
Exactly.
because your front court is so loaded.
Exactly. Their front court is so loaded.
Kembao Phillips and my man, I always shout him out every time we have an episode. Raven Gonzalez. I love the skill of that
Raven.
guy.
I know, 17-foot one-handed floaters, man. Just and he get it's not even like a slow release. It's like catch, throw up like that, and like
Yeah.
bang. It's crazy. Oh,
It's
okay, man.
it's annoying. It's annoying, but it's a thing of beauty.
It's a thing of beauty. That's right. Number one to me is still Mo Tungkara. I like Tungkara's skills. I like how he's versatile. I think he's number one. Number two is Momo Wayne. Number three is Konate. Number four is Agunane. Number five is Ojarikre. Number six, Ododo. And number seven, Balogun.
See, we agree that the chairperson of BBC is at number 7. So,
All
you
right.
know,
But
we
is
see
this a
eye to
good
eye.
time to buy low on the Balogun stock?
Um, I think in their heart of hearts, Ateneo management knows that they can do better than the FSA they have now. And that time, I'm not kidding. That time, I'm not saying it as a guy on the other side of Katipunan as Balogun. Come on, Ateneo. You can find someone better.
Oh my gosh. Okay, we're gonna end the podcast shortly. Of course, shout out to Simon for joining us. By the way, we're gonna do our Fin Cotton Shoe giveaways come the final four. And like I said, you don't have to predict the final score. The person who predicts the final score of the games closest to the actual final score will win free Fin Cotton Shoe. Shout out to my guy Paul for providing that. So it should make for an exciting final four. You mentioned you're a little concerned about this DLS you lost to NU. Want to tell us why?
Momentum is a huge thing, Nabs. Look, maybe it's just and I heard this term from Ronda Rousey. Apparently, it's a thing. Maybe it's just a completionist in me. Maybe it's my utter obsession with good endings, great conclusions, whether it's a dining experience or a movie I'm watching or a book I'm reading. I always put so much stock in how things end because that's the lasting impression. Again, I'm not saying that DLSU's title chances are going down the drain just because they lost the final game of their elimination round. What I'm saying is, imagine how much more momentum, imagine how much more swag, imagine how much more likelihood they would have had of really securing that title had they gone into the final four with a 10-game winning streak, which they could have pushed to 11 if they had taken care of the number 4 team. So, but now, you end the elimination round with a loss. And again, I say this disclaimer all the time when I write, I've never played at the professional level, but the last time I checked, those guys are hella competitive. And I've heard Chris Paul say this, he loves winning, but he just hates to lose all that much more. The reason why he wants to win games is not so much because of the sweetness of victory, it's because he hates losing. So at that level of competitive basketball, that L just isn't going to feel good. And I would expect Coach Topex to use that as motivation to push his guys, whether it's UST, whether it's UE, whether it's Adamson, chew these opponents up, spit them out, and then stomp on them a little bit more in the final four, just to get back in the winning column, basically.
Well, Chris Paul has done a lot of losing in his career, though, right? Oops, sorry, I had to go there. Nah, On a scale of
Of
1 to
course you have.
5, how concerning is it? I would say a 2. A 2 because, it kind of showed that if you limit LaSalle's 3-point shooting, you make them mortal, you make them beatable. But at the same time, too, there might be a positive side out of you're going to the final four. At least that winning streak is gone, right? Like, let's say they won that, it would have been 10 straight wins. And if they won the final for 11 straight wins, and suddenly, let's say you're entering the finals against UP on an 11-game winning streak, and sometimes that can hit you like a buzzsaw out of nowhere, that first loss to end the streak, especially when you're going up against someone repeatedly. And we saw it last season, game one of the finals. UP beat LaSalle after LaSalle had been on a 9-game winning streak. So I'm just curious. What I'm wondering more about is how is the long break going to impact LaSalle? Because LaSalle played November 13, Wednesday. The elimination round ends November 23, 9 days later. Then you have the second Gilas game on the 24th. And then when will the Final Four start? Will it be that Wednesday after the 24th? That would be the 27th. Or would it be the weekend, which would be 30? So let's assume for a second it's on the 30th. That would have been 2.5 weeks since the last time that DLSU had played a game. Now, this goes either two ways. The rest strengthens them and makes them look super explosive out of the gates, which I'm not putting aside because knowing their SNC staff, that's possible. Coach Miggs, I'm sure, will have a good program. Or will the rust be a factor where they're off for maybe the first 2 quarters of a game against a UE or a UST, and they let the other team get a lead, and then maybe they fight back in the second half, but the other team wins, and suddenly you had this near perfect season, and one game could end it all out of nowhere, right? That is the UAAP for you. So I'm going to be watching for that. Again, thanks to the community for showing up. Great episode with Simoun. As always, read his latest column on allstarmagazine.com. There's a dash between all and star. Got good stuff. More UAP action coming up. FIBA coming up. I'm going to try to get Josh Bet on this episode again soon. Our friend Paring Josh. Been a while since we had him here. That should make for a great conversation. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. Simoun, God bless, man. Great thoughts as always, bro.
Thank you, Navs. Deuces. I'm out.